States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So if we could have them come up for informational purposes only. We will not be able to vote or do anything until the next council comes up, okay?
All right, we have a resolution that was offered by Councilman Matusky and Simmonley. The Vito's Auto Repair Correctness Operation.
Could you please state your name for the record? Yes. Sergio, give him the mic.
My name is Ali Hamadi, owner of the property located at 142 Ferry Street, which is operating as a garage.
Sergio Canelio, City Clerk for the City of Everett.
Now, I remember the last time he was here, Sergio, that he was going to court.
I have something here, so
Okay,
I
so
would
if you
like
could
to...
please
I can inform the council
inform
of
us.
that.
Yep.
But before we have any motions and so on. There is a current 3-year lease at the property that ends May 31st, 2020. Mr. Amati went to court approximately a week ago to...
It was last Thursday.
Yeah, about a week, a little less. There has been a judgment. It was dismissed with prejudice. So the findings are that the operator can continue to lease work in the property. But with the agreement, the defendant waived the right for an extension. So on May 31st, 2020, he will not be able to release the property. He will be finally out. So that's approximately 18 months from now. The current tenant will be, his lease will be up, and Mr. Hamadi will regain full control of the license. of the
13
property.
months from now, you mean?
18.
May 2020, so.
Oh, 2020.
So 14 months, excuse me, 14 months, yeah.
Yeah.
Right to the, March,
14
sorry,
or 18.
I used the wrong numbers, my mistake, yes, 14 months from now.
Councilor McKinnon?
Through you to, and you know what, I'd actually, all right, it's just for informational now, correct? All good and said and well for the landowner, but what about the neighborhood?
Yeah, so I mean, we're still monitoring. I get some reports from the neighbors. I've been going by. You know, I know the neighbors are complaining about him parking in front of his bays, but again, it's a tough area. So if they can't park on the street and they can't park on Ferry Street, we were allowing them some leniency because as long as they didn't have hoods off and they weren't working on the side in front of their bays on the outside, we were allowing it a little bit. So I do have a picture. There's 2 vehicles out in front, but it looks like they have plates, they're registered, and one could have been just a customer. There is no parking directly across the street either, because though it's a 20 feet from the corner, that one happens to be like 40 feet from the corner you can't park. So there's a lot of restrictions on parking on that street, and I understand it's probably to help the neighborhood, but the business needs some little operation. Plus, he can't park too close to her fence, the neighbor's fence. So there are some barriers that any business that's going to open there is going to have the same issues. So we do try to be a little bit fair. The speeding up and down the street has ceased from what we noticed. The neighbors have said the same. And the parking in front of their house has ceased. So though there were some corrective action in regards to that. They are still, parking a little bit in front of the bays. I haven't noticed any real late night operations or Sunday operations since I've been going by. I do know that the neighbors had complained that they had seen someone in there once or twice on a Sunday. I didn't, but I'm not going to lie, I'm not there every single Sunday checking it out.
Yeah.
But I do go
Nor
sporadically.
should you be there every
But I,
single Sunday, wasting your time or ours.
but I do go by sporadically. I mean, I live in the not too far, and I do try to peek over and as much as I can.
Well, this, I mean, although it's good for the landowner to actually have the decision without
Yeah.
prejudice or whatever
Yeah,
they decided in the courtroom.
Yeah, so I mean,
If we're gonna continuously hear, here comes the other councilman.
Yeah.
If we're gonna continuously hear problematic routine stuff going on there, and at this point in the game, we still have the option to pull that license, correct?
that is your choice. You do have to there is a procedure for it.
If you could, just, could you read that
Yep,
decision again, so the council can
So
be up to
Councilor
speed on
Capone,
it?
so there was a judgment issued last week. It's a judgment for, excuse me, let me read it. It's dismissed with prejudice, but the defendant did waive his rights to an extension of the lease. So 14 months from now, May 31st, 2020, the lease will be up.
And-
So that's one more license section,
And then
season.
my discussion prior to this, Counselor, would be that although it's good for the landowner to have that decision, still may not be good for the residents of that area at the same time, so.
But could you please go over the corrections that have been made? So
Yep, so they have, the speeding on the street has definitely been better, according to the neighbors and the police. And there has been no parking of the tenants or the landlord or the owner of the business on Villa Ave. So they have corrected that. The neighbors have stated, specifically one or two that I spoke to. That has been better. They still are complaining that he's parking in front of his bays, Counselor, but if you remember last time, we did say that if you can't park on the street, there's no parking across the street, and not even 20 feet to the corner, it's 40 feet to the corner. And you can't park on Villa Ave, and there's almost no parking on Ferry Street. He does have a little side lot, but there are some vehicles there, and, I think we were trying to be fair to everyone, as long as they're being clean and pretty courteous neighbors. And I know we've had issues where they weren't, so we're trying to be fair to both, right? There's a business,
Yeah.
not only a business owner, but there's a landlord that receives rent from there,
Yeah.
and there are neighbors that
I
are
mean,
affected, so it's
I get
just
it.
tough.
I get it, but you had a
But I-
slew, you had a slew of people here from.
Oh,
that street.
absolutely, and they
weren't
weren't
happy with
totally
this guy.
wrong, but some of those issues were corrected.
Okay.
Some have, again, the
Is
parking in front of the
Is
base
the 20 feet the corner
haven't.
on that side where he's parking all the,
Yeah, that
in
would
front
be
of the
20
bay
feet in
and
front of the, technically, you really probably shouldn't
He shouldn't
park
be
in
doing
front of your bays at all, but we are,
if he has no parking across the street?
there's no parking across the way and no parking on Ferry, so there's nowhere else he can put a vehicle. But he has not parked anything without bumpers and things like that for extended periods of time, which is really my concern. It's more for safety, right? People walking by, there's jagged edges, there's an engine on the side. We don't want to see that. That hasn't been happening. Again, it's not the warm months either, so we have to be aware that could happen. But if we continue to license, obviously I will continue to monitor along with the assistant.
No, excuse me.
Yes.
Now, through you, Madam Chairwoman, can we put restrictions on this so that we can monitor it closely?
I believe we already had restrictions on it. I'm not 100% sure. If you could ask the
Yeah,
What were the
clerk.
restrictions on it?
Well, no parking on Villa Ave,
Yep.
no parking against the fence. I don't know how we did that one, but no parking on the fence that abuts the property. It's right next door. No parking in front of the bays.
And then we had hours restricted.
Yeah,
When we have the hours.
every business has hours
Every-
restricted.
all the
Never open
right.
on Sunday. Monday through Friday is, I believe it's 8 to 6.
6, yeah.
And then I'm pretty confident 8 to 1 or 8 to 2 on Saturday. I don't have the
Nothing on
license in front of
Sunday?
you. Maybe Mr. Burley, okay, yeah.
But that's
it's
for
2
every
o'clock.
business in the city, the same
Every
business, right?
business has, they don't always have the same exact hours, but they have hour restrictions. In a more commercially zoned area, we might allow them to open till 8 PM.
Right.
And start at like 6 AM because they're not affecting a
The
neighborhood.
neighborhood.
It's all business, right?
Yep.
So this has been done from years ago, these hours, prior to
So-
even this board being.
So if we choose to keep the restrictions in place
Mhm.
and then strengthening any portion of of them, we could do so right now.
It is within your authority to
Okay.
make reasonable restrictions.
Thank you.
Counsel Capone?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Through you to our clerk and to the guest, I take it the tenant's not here. I don't see him, so, okay.
He's not.
So the biggest concern I have, I heard everything that my colleague had asked, and it all sounds good. Have the yelling matches between the employees and the neighbors stopped?
They have. As of the last few
Okay.
weeks, no one's come in to
Okay,
report
that's
any.
the biggest
And that was
concern.
huge.
Yeah.
And then,
Okay.
and they've been non-combative with me also, which was the
Okay.
issue at the beginning also, so.
Okay, all right. And so dismissed, the lease expires in 14 months, was it?
approximately
May
20.
31st of 2020?
Okay, okay,
So that's the license season. So
Okay.
we have one more time, we'll license them. By the time
Okay.
we have to license them again, they'll be gone.
all right, okay. Well, it sounds like things are coming to a
Better.
conclusion at some point.
Definitely
It's better. I guess we can always take a look at it again if it erupts again, but,
Keep the restrictions in place.
oh, yeah, I think definitely we'll keep those
Yeah,
restrictions
they
in play.
automatically stay unless
But
you rescind them.
I don't have any other questions, thank you.
Okay, thank
I
you.
have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman
The,
Kim.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, to the guests. You said with prejudice. What do you mean with prejudice from the court?
So with
that.
prejudice, and I'm not an attorney, so I'm going to say, Mr. Capone,
I just
isn't
wanna
that
know for
mean
them.
that you can't come back for the same issue,
Okay.
right? Just like we do without prejudice or with prejudice when we vote things down. Without prejudice, they can come back 6 months later. With prejudice, it's 2 years, or 1 year, depending on our rules. So,
Okay.
and then in the court, it means you can't do it. You can't come back for that same thing, that same exact issue. He could sue him for something different, but not for that same exact
That's
issue.
correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
I mean, again,
Because he was
that's my
holding the
knowledge of
rent
the law,
for-
so.
For 3 months, going into 4, and he did pay the 3 months, so I cannot bring the issue of the rent again unless he defaulted
If he
on the
defaults.
rent. But I can bring another issue against him if he does any other thing, which I might probably do, but I don't want to promise. I have several other issue. I might start with something, but I don't want to tell you until I have something in place.
Yeah, and then that'll be their private matter, so.
That's your matter.
Yes,
Until they break
yes.
what we're doing right here again,
That's right, yeah.
then
And it-
we'll be probably having you guys up again, up here again.
Now, if they do, I'm sorry, are you,
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
If they do break the rule all over again, we can shut them down, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
through the
So,
proper.
to
the
me, if
proper
they're,
way to do it.
if they're making an effort to get along with the neighbors, and they're doing the right thing for now, we don't know what they're gonna do next month, but let's leave it alone. We can always rescind the license if we have to.
But the message is to them is, we're not gonna stand for any of that activity that was going on, even though it's like coming up on their like 14 months and all this
Yeah,
stuff, and they
so
know
what
they're
we'll
gonna be
do is,
leaving.
well, we can, when Mr. Burley writes these minutes, we can write in, the restrictions will stay, et cetera, and we'll send a letter along with the minutes from this meeting
And they
to
shouldn't be
the
deferred
tenants.
like the last month that they're gonna be there, you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, could you repeat
They
that?
shouldn't be, we'll say, not acknowledged for the last month that they're gonna be there, because you know how that goes.
Right.
If they're gonna be an unruly tenant at that point.
Yeah, yeah, no,
they're
I
gonna
know.
wanna
No,
just,
I
do
do
whatever.
continue to drive by and monitor, so, they're not completely,
Just let them know at any point, if
Yeah.
anything happens like that to the, the Villa Ave people, then we're gonna take their license.
yeah, Mr. Rigucci's been going by some of the places during the day for, when I can't, so he'll write the letter, we'll have him draft a letter tomorrow to them and make sure they understand what we
Big
expected
Dave
them.
on 'em.
Yeah, he's been really good about that,
You
so.
have to remember, this is just a resolution.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna, but I'm gonna, as clerk and as the agent to the council, I can write a letter stating what I expect of them through the council, and that's what I'm going to do.
All right.
Sound good? Does that work for the council?
Okay, so we can excuse with the
Thank
customer.
you.
Thank you for appearing.
And then add that to this, we want to keep and maintain the current restrictions on them. And if there's,
The restrictions are already there, so.
so we don't have to add anything? Okay.
Right.
And if in fact they break any of those restrictions, they'll be back before us.
No, we're just gonna shut them down.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam
Okay,
Chairwoman.
your pleasure.
Refer it out to the body, I guess, at this
So
point.
refer it out to the body, and the restrictions we had will
Yep.
remain.
Yep.
And
And we'll instruct the clerk to send a letter out to the
instruct the
tenant.
clerk to send out a letter
Explaining what we
and
expect
explaining
going forward.
what we expect going forward.
And then we'll refer it back, I guess, place it on file, refer back to sponsor. And then if issue comes up again, we can always
We'll
take it in front
always
of us
bring it
again.
back. Okay,
From there.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second? Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, you have adjourned.